Hey guys, I'm doing a tutorial on the Everyday Tote. I did one before. It was with my domestic machine, although, so it wasn't the greatest. This time I have a Juki DU1181N. It is a lot faster to sew on this machine and a lot easier, honestly. So I'm just going to jump right to it because I'm probably going to be piecing a couple of these videos together. I already did a quick time-lapse video of folding the edges down on the zipper closure panels, whatever you want to call them. You'll have, I think the pattern calls for 4 of the exterior fabric. I'm doing 2 linings and 2 exteriors. It's an Ohio State bag for myself. Let's see. Okay, so cut these according to the pattern. I used a 1/2 inch double-sided leather tape that I bought off of wayback.com. And basically I did these in the time lapse. I folded those under and I got my straps ready. So now we're going to attach all of this to our zipper so we can get started on our bag. Now mine just so happened to be right next to each other. You see the pattern kind of goes together. So I want my zipper to fit this way. So we're going to attach this to this side of the zipper first. What we want to do, it's kind of hard to explain, but you want to kind of fold this edge under like so. If you have to stitch it a little bit, you can. Otherwise, just go right ahead and attach it to your panel. I'm going to turn it around so I can see what I'm doing. Make sure I'm getting the right side here. Okay. This is not my favorite part, but I thought you could struggle through it with me. What the heck, right? Alright, let's see. Go ahead and get some clips. We will clip that on. Okay. This one, sometimes when you're doing zippers and stuff like this, you don't have to baste. You can just add your lining over top and then sew it all 3 layers together. This is what we're going to do, is sew this to the zipper, right sides together, and then sew this on. But since we have the zipper part that we folded over, I want to go ahead and baste. That way I know everything kind of stays where it's supposed to stay. My zipper, I'm not sure what length we're supposed to cut. I just kind of eyeball it. It looks like I have about 17 inches, 17, 18 inches. I'm going to put a zipper end on the end. It's not going to be a really long, extra long zipper, so it is what it is. But alright, we're going to go ahead very carefully try to keep that from coming unfolded because I can just see me messing that up. Okay. Good deal. And we're just going to go about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And you don't want to sew past the end. See where I stopped? There's the end. You don't want to sew past because then you'll see it on your zipper tape and you don't want to see your threads on your zipper tape. Oh, let's cut this stuff off. Alright, unzip that again. Let's go ahead and get our lining or another one of our exterior pieces, just however you cut yours. Now the part where I started is where I want to clip first, just so I know those edges are nice and flush right here. And when I sew, I want to sew from this side so I can see my line that I've already sewn. So we'll go ahead and just clip it down again. Okay. And if your edges, mine are even, but if they're not, I mean this is double-sided tape, so you could unpeel it and fold it so they're both even. But mine are good, so I don't have to. All right. I accidentally went on my zipper tape there, but it's alright, I can unpick it. It's not too bad. Open our zipper here. Make sure. Okay. I gotta turn my speed down a little. I know that's what the problem is. It's getting away from me. Okay. All right. And then once we're done there, let's fold it out. And then we'll fold these together. So you got your zipper up here and then both of these wrong sides together basically. I'm going to go ahead and steam it, iron it, and then we'll top stitch all the way around. So give me just a second here. Waterproof canvas is a little bit hard to iron, but I'm gonna go ahead and use some of my clips here just to hold this down. Okay, go ahead, and I'm gonna turn my stitch length, I don't know, mine's up to a 4.5, just whatever works for you. I don't think it has to be exactly what I'm doing. It's whatever you like. Back stitch. And I'm just going about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And I'll show you here in a second when I'm done. You can see I just did like a little 1/8 of an inch all the way around the whole entire thing. Same on the other side. Alright, I'm going to pause the video here or stop it and just do a time lapse of me doing the other side, and then I will be back again to show you the next step. Okay, I'm back. Now we have our zipper panel finished. I'm going to go ahead, before I forget, and attach my zipper end really quick. Sometimes I wait till the last minute, then it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I want to go ahead and do that right now. Get my little screw. Everybody's different. I'm pretty simplistic. I just fold the zipper tape over once and then over again. And shove my zipper end on. These are not from Lauren at moremeknow.com. These I believe are from Amazon or Etsy or something. They're a little bit bigger than what Lauren sells, so that's why I don't have to fold them over so many times. I will admit I do like Lauren's better, but I have these, so I'm gonna use them. So there's our, there's our zipper end, all done. Now our zipper panel is done. We need to find our centers, so when we go to put it on our lining, we know where to put it. So just fold it in half, not the zipper part, but the panel part. Fold that in half. Just make a little snip. We're gonna end up doing I believe it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance when we do sew these on. So as long as you keep it under that, I wouldn't make too big of a snip. There's not really any reason to make it that big. But okay, so let me get I got stuff all over the place here. Okay. Looks good. All right, we're gonna go ahead and let's see, what do we wanna do next? You know what, we'll just work on our linings. Let's go ahead and do the other, get all the zipper stuff out of the way. Okay, I lied. We're not gonna get the zipper stuff out of the way. We're gonna do a slip pocket first. This one, I'll turn it so it's your way. This is the bottom. This is the top. And if you can see, I drew a line across the bottom right here. Let me see. I think it's an inch. Inch and a half. And I'm giving you these because they're my own creation. They're not part of the pattern. So that's the only reason I'm giving you the dimensions. So an inch and a half from the bottom up. This is going to be our big slip pocket. I don't know if you can see, but I have two lines drawn right here. It looks like you can. It's hard to tell from my angle. We're gonna sew here. So that way this is all slip pocket here, all one big pocket. So we wanna sew on these lines. But anyway, in order to get this on here nicely, we're going to, I can do this in any order. We can do this part first. Hold that thought really quick. We wanna get the top of this. Since it's waterproof canvas, one side's rubbery, one side's the canvas finished, we're just gonna fold it under about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch or so and top stitch along the top of it. That way we have a nice seam. And actually, this will even help. We'll go ahead and put a piece of double-sided leather tape if you have it and are able to use it. I would suggest using it. It just makes it that much easier, because waterproof canvas does not like to fold willingly and stay. It's just kind of, yeah, just kind of a pain. All right, so we'll fold this down. Wonderful. If you don't have double-sided sticky tape, you can fold this down and just put clips in. That will hold it in place until you can get to your sewing machine to sew it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just top stitch this. I'm gonna do a 4.5 for my top stitch. I don't really have to back stitch, but it's just a habit. Oh, sheesh. All right, whew. So there's our top stitch. I just folded it over about a 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 of an inch. All right, now back to where we were. All right, this is the bottom. I drew a line with like a fabric marker that will wash away. It's a friction pen. It disappears with heat. About 1.5 inches up from the bottom. This is our finished edge for our slip pocket up here, and this is how we want it to sit. But there's a reason this line's here, because this is how it's going to look in the bag. We got to sew it on so there's no raw edges. Put this down, okay? Can't tell if you can see it all. All right, top of our lining, bottom of our lining. Here's our line. This is the way it's going to sit in the bag. Fold it down so right sides are together, and you're going to put this edge against that line that we drew, and we're going to sew, I don't know, 1/2 inch-ish. I haven't really measured it, I just guessed. But we're going to sew 1/2 inch from this edge right here onto our lining. You can pin it if you want. It doesn't really matter. As long as you follow your line that you drew, you're going to be straight. Let me turn my stitching link back down. So I'm just going to make sure it's straight on that line. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Cut all my threads. All right, so now we have this really big piece of lining fabric, the top, the bottom. We're just going to fold it back up. I'm going to press it with the iron to get it to stay, and then we're going to top stitch around all of this and finish off our little slip pocket here. So let me iron this really quick with some steam. And like I said, this is a friction pen that disappears with the ink, so you can see I lost a little bit of my line, but that's all right. I can still see it well enough. I am going to go ahead and put a couple clips in just to kind of keep it in place. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start down here at the bottom. It's kind of like a basting stitch right next to the edge. Follow our top stitch line from folding our lining pocket panel piece up. We don't really care about that little tiny small edge. No one's probably going to be putting anything in that pocket. It's going to be too small. And you want to keep your stitch line about 1/4 inch away from the bottom. I'm going to go back toward the edge. Okay. Go to the edge, turn it around, back over here to where that pocket line is. Did not do that little back stitch on the other end. I probably will go over there and do it just to keep it nice and, you know, reinforced. Okay. Like I said, I just want to go back over here really quick since I didn't do that. You don't have to do that. That's just personal preference. But it does reinforce the pocket, so when someone's putting something in it constantly over and over again, you just get that little bit of extra. Yeah, that's our really big slip pocket. One side done. But before we go and put this off to the side, I want to snip my centers, which I think I already did when I cut them out, but let me double check. Yes, I did. I got a little cut. You want to do the top and the bottom. You'll need that for when we put our bottom piece on. Okay, now we can do the other lining. Okay, let me get organized here. All right, let's go ahead, fold this in half. A little bit of a crease. I want to get one of my friction pens out. Actually, it doesn't have to be a friction pen. We're going to be drawing. We're going to be marking on the wrong side, so it's up to you if you trust yourself not to accidentally mark on the right side. I want to go down about 1.5 inches. Again, that's just my preference. Put the center, I have a center ruler. It has a 0 in the center, so I'm going to put that in the center. And I'm going to go over, we're going to do a 7-inch zipper hole. So I'm just making my box for a 7-inch zipper hole. Put the pen away. This time I am going to get a friction pen because I want to measure down. Put this one, fold it in half to find the center real quick. Okay. Let's see. Probably 1.5 inches from the top, roughly. Something like that. I like to make a mark so I have something to follow, even though I'm getting it right there on the center. That way I know it's nice and straight. Another trick, if I can, I like to flip the bottom up and clip it, and that kind of helps keep the pocket from moving also. So now you can kind of move it around and the pocket stays where it's supposed to stay. So I'm going to make 2 parallel lines. I'm not going to sew the short end, just the long ends. Now we'll go ahead. I'm gonna take the clips off now. I like to start with a seam ripper and just kind of start in the center and just make a little snip, just so I have something to get my scissors into. Just be really careful when you do that, because seam rippers, at least for me, are notorious in going off in a bad direction. So just be very careful. Okay, cut up to that corner. Do not cut your threads. All right, and now this is what I'm going to do when I go over to my iron. Oh, let's see if I can get you down here a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to fold. We're still on the wrong side that I drew the lines on. We're going to fold this down and iron it. Let it flat back up. I'm going to fold this up and iron it. And do the same with the edges and iron it. More steam than iron, really, because it is waterproof canvas. Just don't iron on the wrong side. Make sure when you flip it up, it's the right side of the canvas. And that also not stiffens, it softens up the waterproof canvas, so when you do flip it right side out, it's just a little easier, more pliable. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Sometimes these little tricks are just kind of nice to have. It makes your job a lot easier and quicker, especially if you're making a lot of these. Okay, I'm just going to do the sides real quick. Okay. Alright, and this still never works great for me. I don't like doing this part. It always is like funky, but it just makes it easier. A little easier at least. Alright, and now it's going to take me a hot second, but I'm going to go over to my iron and just kind of iron all this down, get it nice and straight. 1 second. I'm going to get the top, make sure it's all flush here. Okay. And I have my zipper. I got it all ready to go. I've already ironed it, even though it probably doesn't look like it, but I did. Okay. Kind of center it. I don't get too picky. I just typically go straight to my sewing machine and then adjust it once I get started. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I never start at the very end. I always start kind of in the center. It's just another one of my weird little things I do. Okay. Okay. Once it's on the machine, it's a little easier to kind of play with. So I better go one more. Okay. Okay. Just about. Beautiful. Just going to take my lighter and burn the edge of that thread a little bit. Alright, so we got that done. Now, where did it go? Did it fall? Nope, there it is. Flip it over. Right sides together. I'm just going to sew in a U-shaped. We're going to leave this bottom open for turning the bag later on. So let's go ahead and give it a couple clips. If I were to pick a part of any bag really that is the part I don't like, I would say this is it. I do not like putting in the lining zippers, zipper pockets in general. I don't know what it is. I just don't like it, but you gotta have them. Looks like my needle is sticky. Okay. It always goes wonky, and that's I think why I don't like it. Because when I cut them out, they're both exactly the same size, but once I sew that zipper in, it's like they're off, and I gotta stretch them, and I feel like I'm, I don't know, messing it up. It always turns out okay, but just while I'm doing it, that's how I feel like it's off. I don't know. I'm weird, I guess. All right. So gonna leave our zipper about halfway unzipped. Fold up this edge. I'm going to iron mine a little bit. I don't want to fold up that much, but I don't know, ½ inch or so. Ugh. Just like a little bit, fold it up. Go ahead and iron it. Steam press it, something like that, whatever you want to call it. Be careful on your the wrong side of your waterproof canvas. Okay. And if you haven't, make sure you find your centers. Yep, I've already done it. Yep. So our linings are done. Zipper side, big slip pocket side. Now we can get, I know we haven't done our exterior yet, but there's no reason why we can't just finish our lining because we're sitting here doing it anyway. Figure out which side you want to be on the inside when you unzip your bag. For me, when I unzip it, I always want to unzip it from this side, and I like to see my inside zipper when I do so. So that's why I'm going to lay mine like this. So we're just going to find our center snips, put those together. Just use a couple clips. We're going to add some more here in a second. And again, it's the zipper lining, zipper pocket lining side, so it like feels wonky, even though it's not. It's just because that pocket's in there. It drives me nuts. But. All right, now you're gonna need the top part. I can't remember what it's called, but a lining top. I don't know. There's two of them you gotta cut. They're obviously longer than your zipper panels, so you'll know which ones they are. I chose to use the black vinyl. I'm gonna put it right size together with all of this. Make sure this is out of the way. Just gonna line it up and clip it on as well. I can do that, and I'm just gonna remove these as I get to them. You can baste before you can just baste these two together if you want, and then put this on. But this is, everything usually stays pretty good when we do it like this, when I do it like this. And I feel like you guys are kind of missing out on stuff for some reason. Am I not having you close enough? Anyway, so there's that. I'm going to do a ½ inch. I'm not sure. I'm not quoting the pattern because I don't have it in front of me, but I am going to do a ½ inch seam allowance. It sounds right to me. And then we're going to fold it up and top stitch about 1/8 of an inch away on top of this vinyl. I'll put my stitch length up a little higher, about a 4.5, 4.5. Just take your time. No reason to be in a hurry. Nice and straight. Top stitch line. All right, so we got one side done. This unzips. This is what it looks like underneath. All right, we're gonna add our next piece. So this is the top. This is the bottom. We want to lay, you can't see it, let me see. Just in case you can't see. All right, this is the piece we just finished, the top, the bottom. The bottoms together. We're gonna fold this out, find our centers, and do the same exact thing again. So basically your linings are right sides together. All right, let's find the centers. Okay. Go ahead and clip it. Gotta find my other piece. There it is. Just turned my stitch length back down before I forgot. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do that again. 1/2 inch seam allowance is what I'm going to do. Alright, turn my stitch length back up so I can top stitch. Hold it up. Done with our lining. All right, this is the top. I'm gonna fold it down, right sides together. You're gonna make sure you get, especially if you have the end on, in general, you wanna make sure you get the zipper out of the way. So I tend to fold it up, I unzip it, fold it up, and just kind of clip it to the zipper pull or to the side of your panel, whatever kind of works for you. That keeps it out of the way. I just clipped it to the panel. All right, so we're gonna line up our vinyl or whatever you used for the top of your lining. We're gonna line that up so it's nice and flush with each other. Clip it. We'll do another clip up here, make sure it stays nice and straight. And just clip your edges, your sides. We'll go ahead and do that. I find the Wonder Clips kind of work a little better for this. They're just a little bit stronger. The alligator clips, or whatever you want to call them, work, but it just tends to shift. So for this part, I just like to use these. Just do one side at a time. And this is the lining, so you want a little bit bigger of a seam allowance. So I'd say stick with your 1/2 inch, but maybe 5/8, something like that. Just a little bit bigger than your 1/2 inch. I could be totally wrong on these measurements for the seam allowances. Honestly, I suggest you follow the pattern for these because you want your lining to fit, you know, your bag just right. So definitely refer to the pattern for that, please. But we're doing the same thing with the other side now. I'm just clipping it. All right. Same, a little bit bigger than a 1/2 inch for me. Okay. Our lining is just about done. You can unclip this for now if you want. Just make sure it gets moved out of the way later on when we sew this to that other side of the bag. We're gonna go ahead and sew our bottom on really quick. I don't know why I say really quick, but this is your bottom panel piece. Fold it in half, make your snips on all 4 sides. And then fold it in half this way and make your snips. I've already done it. Also, I haven't done this yet. Again, It's up to you if you want to use a pen that's erasable or if you want to use a friction pen. You want to mark a 1/2 inch on each on each corner. See how I've done that? 1/2 inch. Do it on all sides really quick. It's going to be kind of our stop and start line. You probably don't need to do it like 4 times like this, like I am, but whatever. I'm doing it anyway because I can. Okay. All right. Same thing's going to happen when we do the exterior also. But we're going to go ahead, facing side, or the right side's facing down. Let me turn you again here. There. Right side's down. I'm going to open up our lining, shove this in, and right sides together. So this bottom piece and this part, right sides together, you're going to find those center snips and clip it. I was not extremely happy with this part of the pattern when I first started making it. It just seemed odd to me. It just wasn't my favorite, but I will show you it's not as bad as what you think. I think it was one of the main reasons I didn't make the bag at first when I bought the pattern. But I promise you it's not as bad as I like to think that it is. So we're going to sew, and we made those marks. We're going to start and stop at these marks. So where that those crosses come together, that's where we want to start, and it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So you're going to start right in that point where our center of our X is, if that's what you want to call it. So all the way down and stop at the other line. So you really only needed to mark lines on the short ends of your piece, but yes, start and stop. Basically start and stop a 1/2 inch from each edge. And we're going to go all the way down this side right here. Make sure you turn your stitch length back down if you changed it. Okay. Just take your time. Okay. That's one side. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, but we're going to change it up just a little bit. So I'm going to reach in and grab it, pull it out. So now we got our center here. Find our center pieces. We're going to flip it over so we can see our marks. Okay. Same thing. Let me mark it up real quick for you. Not mark it, let me clip it up really quick. Alright, now the thing we're going to change this time is we want a place to turn the bag through, right sides out. So we're going to do the same thing we just did on the other side, start at our mark, and we're going to sew to like maybe this orange clip, which is, I don't know, 2 inches. So start at our mark, sew about 2 inches and stop. We're going to jump ahead and start 2 inches from our mark, sew, and stop at the mark. So that's what we're going to do because we want to leave a big opening to turn our bag through. So we'll go ahead and do that. There seems about good. I'm going to go ahead and remove these. I'm not even going to cut my threads. I'm just going to jump here. Let's see, to about here, I think. That looks good. Okay. Okay. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? All right, so let me finish cutting all these off. Flip it over. Cut. Cut. All right, so you can kind of see where I started and stopped. You can see my marks. All right. Now, when you're looking at it, let me see if I can bring you guys down a little further. This is so silly that you're so far away. Sorry. Okay. Now, edge of our panel, this is where we started stitching. We want to cut. We want to cut up to that line. We just want to cut our fabric right there. I will show you what I mean. make sure you only cut the one piece of fabric, this outer fabric. I'll show you one more time. You cut them both and I'll show you. Whoops. Okay. So right here, you only want to cut. See, I just cut a line. Don't cut your threads, just right where you stopped and started your edge. Only on the edge, not anywhere else. Do the same over here, a little snip here and a little snip over here. Just that outside fabric, not your bottom panel that we just sewed on, just your lining side, the lining panel. And the reason is when we bring this out, it will lay nice and flat. This is hard for me to do on the table like this, but it'll lay nice and flat once you're going to try to square your sides. So that's why we do that. So I might even have to put you down a little further. I'm going to bring you up so you can kind of get a little bit of an idea of what I'm doing. And this is why those seam allowances are extremely important, because if you don't do them right, this isn't going to sit right. So you want to make sure you get those seam allowances just right. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and clip. And clip. And clip. I'm just going to do one side at a time. Again, a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You're going to start and stop at that line. That's why we marked those marks. Okay, just make sure everything's there. Take your time. I want to back stitch over that center seam. It's going to seem a little bulky when you get in those, whoops, I ran out of bobbin. When you get in those corners, just because of the way you're putting it together. Oh, wonderful. But I promise it's going to work. I'm going to re-sew that just because I ran out of bobbin like right in the middle of that seam. I don't want it coming undone. Sorry, but I just, better safe than sorry. Okay. So, let's go ahead. Sew over that one more time, even though it's probably fine. Alright, same thing to the other side. Please follow the instructions for what the pattern says to do for the seam allowances, because I'm pretty positive what I did isn't correct, because they're not like nice and flush when they should be. It's still going to work and it'll look fine. No one's even going to notice that my little seam was off a little. But you definitely want to follow the pattern. Now what I'm going to do is just, you'll have your little turning hole here. I'm looking inside the bag just to make sure all my corners I'm feeling also. I doubt you'll be able to see if I try to show you. But there's our big slip pocket. No, it doesn't look like you can see. Okay, just trying to make sure my corners are all sewn. So it looks good, which means our lining is finished and that we can go to the exterior now. Okay, now we are ready for our exterior panels. We have these wonderfully shaped little center panels. We just need the one for now. When you cut these panels out for your sides, you had to put your pattern a certain way, cut it, and then you had to flip your pattern piece over and then cut 2 more that way. When I cut mine, I made sure I figured out which one was left, which one was right, and then I wrote L's on the left ones and rights on the right one. So then when I go to put it together on this, I know which one is which. This is my left, this is my right. We'll take one of each. And when we put it on, okay, that's not gonna work because it's kind of, I gotta flip it over. There we go. Basically, it's just making a really big rectangle. So just make sure you have it on there correctly, according to the pattern pieces, and that's how we're gonna sew them on. Just gonna flip it over. And those are gonna be our seams. Now, I'm gonna have to move you up a little bit more, because you can't really see my table. There we go. Sorry. All right. There we go. So this is how they're gonna lay. It's gonna make a one big rectangle. Flip them in because we're gonna sew down the edges. I like to make a mark. I dropped my ruler, hang on. I like to make a mark to follow, just so I know I'm nice and straight. So we will do that. I like to do 1/2 inch, so I keep these so I know they're on there correctly. You don't have to do this. I choose to do it. It's just my thing. I'm just marking my seam allowance is all I'm doing. All right, flip this back around. This is my left, this is my right. I'm going to go ahead and clip them on. Flip it around. If you're not sure exactly how you should be clipping it on, refer to the pattern, but I just kind of make sure they're both pretty much corner to corner. I think you're supposed to overlap it a little bit. It says in the directions that mine always fits corner to corner. So now I'm just going to follow that seam allowance line I drew at 1/2 inch. Nice and straight. Okay. We'll just do this. So we have to cut the thread. Cut the thread. Okay. And we're going to do the same exact thing with the other side. Move this out of the way for a second. Bring this back. All right. Left and right. Yes. Flip it in. I'm going to draw my lines. Around. Whoops. All right. Now we're going to top stitch those. Turn my stitch length up just to open it. Leave this pointing out. And we're just going to top stitch down this vinyl side. 1/8 inch or so. Take your time. I'm going to go ahead and get my next one. Okay. I'll cut this. fall off my table. That out of the way. Okay. All right. Let's get all my strings cut off here, all my threads. Whew, a bunch of them. All right, only thing left to do now is add our, I'm using headliner. I can't remember what the pattern calls for. I think it calls for fleece. I am not positive. The headliner has two sides. One side is this really shiny stuff, and the other side is kind of a dull, foamy fleece looking stuff. I want the shiny stuff to be up against the wrong side. So mine I didn't cut exactly perfect. I figured I could cut it down after I sew it together. It's not a it's not an iron-on deal, so I'm gonna baste. I'm gonna turn my stitch length up quite a ways and just baste around the very edge. Really close to the edge is what my plan is. You can clip it. It probably wouldn't hurt. That way it doesn't move around on you. Here I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't know why, I'm just not. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do the other one, and then I'll be right back. Alright, now we have our fleece, foam, headliner, whatever you're using. We have that attached. Now we just got to figure out which one we want to be our front. Mine's a pretty much all over panel. There's no middle, center, nothing at all. So I'm just going to say, sure, this one looks good. And we're going to put our or whatever you call it, our little handmade thing in it now. It's up to you where you want to put it. I mean, everybody's kind of different. I think the one I'm carrying I have somewhere down in here. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Let me get my center mark here again. Again, I want to use my friction pen. Some people don't like these, some do. It's up to you, it's your preference. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to turn you this way so I can see where my center is. About 4.5 roughly from each piece of vinyl or side panel from the center. So it's about 9 inches from here to here. So I'm going to say right here is my center, but I don't want it up that high. And this is really how I eyeball it. I kind of figure out where I want it. I think that's going to be too high. I want it right in here. So I think another 1.5 inches down. So where's my center mark? Okay, and then I just try to make sure I'm lined up here. 4 3/4. I'm thinking like right here maybe. That looks good to me. Yep. And then that'll go right there. So I'm just going to straighten my prongs out nice and straight the way that they're going to be poking into the fabric. Lay them down on that line I just drew and make my marks. And this is why I wait until after I've applied the headliner, because then I don't have to add any extra Decovil or anything to attach it with. Okay. Okay. And make sure you get it pointing the right way so it doesn't read upside down. Poke it right on in there. Okay, here is that. Cute. Okay, looks crooked, but it's not. Nope, it just looks like it because it's the crazy fabric. Cute, I love it. All right, now we're going to get our straps. And this, I kind of like this also because you don't have to measure over any at all. I just make sure I line it up right next to the vinyl, not overlapping, but literally right next to it. But one other thing I do to make sure they're even in the same exact length, obviously you don't have to have smooth edges. I know sometimes it's nice to clip the edges so they're smooth, but you don't need to because it's going to be hidden. I'm not using any strap connectors. So first, just make sure you haven't cut exactly to the same size, and I do. Then, move this out of the way. I like to take and just make a mark. Hang on. Pardon me. I like to make a mark a 1/2 inch in on each strap. Actually, let's do 3/4 of an inch. And draw a line. 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to do this to both sets of straps. Let me grab the other side here. You're going to want to lay them out the way they're going to be laying on the bag. Okay, like so you can see the line when you're sewing it on. All right, 3/4. Boop, boop. All right, good enough. Now, when you lay your straps on your bag, if you're doing it this way, you want it to, you know, you want your line that you marked to be level. Let's see if I can flip around here. The line you marked, you want to even it up with the edge of the bag, and you're going to put your strap right next to that vinyl. And then we're going to baste them on. So we are going to go ahead and do that real quick. I'm not even going to clip them because I'm just going to baste really quick. Back stitching. Okay. And this one. Okay. It drives me crazy, all these threads. Alright, so that's what it looks like. It's sticking up a little bit. And it's right next to the vinyl edges. So go ahead and do the other one. And again, make sure, if you don't have a directional fabric, make sure the smaller, skinnier side is pointing up. This side's a little bit wider, that's your bottom. And it kind of has angles in a little bit, that's your top. So just make sure you got the right edge facing the right direction. Okay. 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 Now I like to leave about 3/4 of an inch beyond the edge, because when we sew it down, you're gonna have that 3/4 of an inch in here, and we're gonna be sewing over it. So if you make it flush with the edge and then do that, it just doesn't seem to be as much stability for the bag. So that's why I do the 3/4 of an inch. And then just kind of like we did with the lining, we're going to put our pieces together, clip, and sew down the edges. I will, since I've already done this with the lining, it's absolutely no different other than you don't have that, you know how the top part of the lining had this vinyl. I had to match up the edges. This one doesn't have any of that. It's just all the vinyl. You still want to make sure your edges are nice and flush and straight and together. But we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to, not FaceTime, goodness. I'm going to time lapse that so it just goes a little bit quicker. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. I went ahead and sewed down each side, and you'll see that I already put my bottom panel in, just like we did the lining, right sides together. Find your snips. I forgot to snip this after I put my headliner foam piece on, so I had to go ahead and do that. But right now, that's what we have. This one, you know how we marked the 1/2 inch on our lining? This one you don't have to, because if you cut your stabilizer correctly and everything is correct according to the pattern, this corner right here is a 1/2 inch from each side. So start and stop right at that corner. And we're going to do everything exactly the same as we did the lining, except on both long sides we're going to sew everything shut. We're not going to leave a hole. We won't need to. So it's going to go ahead and do that. I have my straps kind of hanging out so I don't accidentally sew over them. With your foam on here, it might be a little bit difficult. Just shove it out of the way. It's all good. But yeah, start and stop right at that corner. Little back stitching, nice and sturdy there. What's my stitch length? Seems funny. Oh, to back stitch a little. Okay. Okay. Snip our threads here. When I got about halfway, my straps got caught on my, so it went crooked. So I had to back stitch just a little bit to fix that. You can kind of see where I did that. I kind of went off a little. If you do that, just be careful not to sew too much in one spot because the vinyl will perforate it and then kind of ruin it a little bit. So just be careful that you don't have to do that at all. I'm just finding my center snaps here again. This is going to be a little bit stiffer because of this foam, so just be careful, take your time. It'll be fine. It'll all work out. It's all good. Okay. And then right there. Let me get rid of these clips, they're just in my way. Okay. Alright, again, start and stop at that corner. Gonna get my straps out of the way. Alright, and then just like with the lining, we're going to cut the exterior only up to that line. Kind of fold your bottom panel piece out of the way. I don't know if I can do this. My scissors are dull. Okay, get my good scissors. There we go. On both sides. Okay, why is it not cutting? There we go. Okay. I promise it's not as hard as what I'm making it look like it is. Alright, and then same thing as the lining. Just maneuver it here until we can get a good spot. If you want to open that bottom seam, you can. I'm going to, let's see, do I want to open it? Yeah, I'll go ahead and open it. Sorry. Just line up your side seam to the bottom snip so everything's nice and lined up. Again, this one's just a little bit tougher because it's got all this foam. Just kind of squish it down, do what you gotta do. And again, start and stop at that corner. It's gonna feel funny, but it'll work, I promise. I don't know so much with a domestic how easy this would be, but it definitely works. Gotta be patient with yourself and just take your time. It'll work. We're almost done. Let's sew this other side here real quick. Okay. Open that center seam. Clip, clip, clip. Okay. And again, start and stop in that corner. Make sure that seam's open. Okay. Almost done, you guys. Okay. Now we're going to just trim a little bit so we don't have so much bulk. I would suggest not trimming much off the corners, kind of leave those like pointy, but just trim a little bit down. I'm gonna go ahead and do that to all of them. And you could probably trim a little. I'm not going to off of my exterior. I like to have it kind of, yeah, I just like to have it not trimmed, but I am going to trim my lining. Okay, reduce some of the bulk here. I am not going to trim the edge that we left the hole open on. I want to keep that the way it is, but I will trim this other one down a little bit. Okay, now I want to turn the lining. I'm getting all messed up. Right side's out. Okay, and this is where you're really going to find out if you got your bottom panels sewn on the right way or not, because your corners might look funky. Okay. Move that out of the way for a second. Alright, this is what our lining looks like. We turned it right side out. Every little hole down here that we left open. You also have your zipper that you left open. I can put my hand all the way through because my zipper's left open. So there's that. You should have your zipper panel flopped kind of down with your top lining thing sticking up. All right, we're gonna put it inside our bag. I have to turn you up a little bit more. All right. Put your straps on the interior of your bag. And then we're just going to, now remember, you have one side that has your handmade. You gotta figure out where you want, if you're carrying your bag and you want the handmade pointing out, you know, you're carrying it like this. If you want to unzip your bag from this side, you want to make sure your zipper, let me find it, it's open all the way right now. So if it was closed, you would want to open it from here. So that's how you want to put it in. Even though everything's inside out and it seems backwards, that's how it works. This is the outside of your bag that you want everyone to see. And if you need to get in, you want to unzip it from here. Make sure that's where you unzip your zipper from. Go ahead and put that inside. So now we have right sides together. We're going to match up our side seams and clip. If you gotta use a ton of clips, use a ton of clips. Mine, some people like to open their seams. I would rather nest. I feel like it just, I don't know, it just works better for me if I nest them. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw a couple clips in here in each side. Say 4 like really close together so it kind of stays for me. So I just got 4. Do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to nest those seams right up next to each other. If you're a quilter, like I'm a quilter, and you'll know exactly what nesting seams. Even if you're just a sewer in general, a lot of times you have to nest seams to get them to lay nice and flat. So, alright, after I do both sides, I just kind of pull it and then just start clipping. I'll lay it down so you can see here. It's up to you if you like to have your clips, because there's a rounded side and a flat side. A lot of people like to have a flat side, the side that's next to the table. I don't really care. I'm not too picky. When I sew it, this is how I'm going to sew it. I'll move this out of the way and you'll see how I sew it. So this part of your bag is going to be against the table and the sewing machine is going to be right here sewing. Yeah, just in case you were wanting to know. I kind of try to tug on a little bit to keep it fitting in there nicely. This is such a great bag. I love this bag for work. It holds so much. If you have like a smaller laptop, not necessarily smaller, but I think mine is like 15 by 9.5 if I measure it, and it fits in here really good. It's my old laptop. My new laptop probably wouldn't. I think it's more like 17 by something. I don't know. It's a bit bigger. But yeah, if you have, you know, a little bit smaller of a laptop, it'll fit in here good. I made the lining slip pocket wider and wide enough that you can get like files in it. I've had a lot of requests for that. They wanted it big enough to where it would fit files. And that slip pocket, you just decide how big you want it and mark your lines. But alright, okay, let's move you back down so we can see the machine. And we will sew this puppy shut. And since we left the hole in the lining, we can sew all the way around. We don't have to leave any holes for turning. We've already done that. So like I said, just move this top piece out of the way. I'm going to do about a 1/2 inch-ish seam allowance. Again, refer to the pattern for exact measurements because I do not know the exact measurements. I'm just guessing. Double, or not double, but back stitch over the straps when you get to them. Okay. Get it, move it around, adjust it. Okay. Make sure those seams stay nice and nested when you get to them. And back stitch over them. I feel like you cannot see me. I'm going to move you so you can see the machine. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Whoa. Okay. And this is where I usually get clips that start flying off everywhere when I start stretching this bag out like crazy and maneuvering it. Clips usually tend to just go crazy, but it happens. Okay. Back stitch a little. Okay. Keep on stretching it out here. I feel like you can't see anything. Whoop. Back stitch. Alright. Here we go. We're getting it. I'm getting to that side side seam again. Back stitch. Alright, let's flatten this puppy out again. Whew. Here are all my clips. Back stitch, back stitch. Okay, we have went all the way around. And this is what we got. Now, flip you up again. Take all of your lining out. Okay, not your zipper pocket, but your big hole you left in the bottom of the lining. Whew, big bag. Reach in there and grab your corners. If you want to poke them all in so they're all kind of pointing the right direction, you can. But just start with one side and just start pulling it through. Stay committed, you can do it. This hole isn't really that much bigger. This one probably is bigger, the zipper. But next time you make one, if you find that you, if this hole is too small, you can always go and just not stitch it from each corner, I guess. Back, just when I'm making this really confusing how to say it. When you leave the opening in the lining, just leave it a little bit bigger, I guess. Alright, get my knees, tush it in. Getting there. Okay. The worst part, isn't it? Just be careful all the tugging, you don't scratch your vinyl on your zipper or anything like that. Hey buddy. Puppy's in here, come to visit. Whew. Probably wondering who I'm talking to. Come on, buddy. Whew, wait. Alright. Reach inside that hole. One of them. Alright. Push your corners out. Make sure everything's nice, because if it's not, you're going to have to turn it wrong side out again and re-sew. But those corners look pretty good. Same with these corners. Oh yeah. Looks good. Okay. Now, sometimes people go ahead and sew everything up now. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure it fits in my bag first. So, go ahead. Whew, shove it in there. Just as if you were finishing the bag. Pretend it doesn't even have holes in it. You want this folded down. Your straps, where they're coming out, is going to be the top of your bag. So everything is going to get folded down up to there. You don't want anything, it's hard to explain here. You don't want your vinyl up and top stitch. That's wrong. You want everything folded down. It's hard to see. So that's what we're going to do. Pull on our lining, get it all shoved in there. Make sure it all fits nicely. If you did use vinyl for your top, your what do you call them? Your side panels over here are going to be a little bit thick, so you're definitely going to want an industrial machine to sew over those. And again, I'm going to sew on my machine the same way I did to sew these together. I'm going to sew it like this. This is going to be on the bottom, my machine's going to be on top, and I'm going to sew like that. So if you want to clip for that, you can, and by that I mean the flat part, if you have these clips, is going to be on the outside of the bag, and then the rounded part will be on the inside. Some people like to flip it and like go up like this so the top stitch is on the outside of the bag. I find with my Juki I don't really have a problem with the top stitch looking bad or the bottom bobbin thread looking bad on the side of my bag. So that's why I do it like that. It's all personal preference. Again, whatever the pattern says to do, I would suggest doing, because I tend to not even look at the pattern. Once I know how to make the bag, I typically don't even look at it again. So my seam allowances could be way off. So hopefully they're close, but they can't be too far off, because the lining is fitting really good inside the bag. So I'm pretty sure the 1/2 inch seam allowances is the way to go. And just like with any bag, the lining, you always want to make your seam allowances a little bit bigger than whatever you do on the outside, just so it fits snugly inside your bag. I am very sweaty now. This was a workout. I probably way over clipped, but that's okay. Move these out of the way. All right. Turn you back down again. I want to make sure you guys can see, but it's hard to get you down at that angle without it being a pain in the rumpus. Let's see what I can do here. This might be the way to go. Sorry for all the moving around. Get right down in there. Now, as long as my bag, when I'm sewing it, doesn't like mess up like crazy, I'm gonna go ahead and start on the side. Make sure your zipper is out of the way. I'm gonna start, let's see, right here's my side seam. The lighting is gonna be really bad now. Does that help any at all? Okay. Right here's my side seam. Here's a strap. I'm gonna kind of start in between the strap and my side seam. Start right in the middle. I should check my bobbin, but I'm just going to hope it works. This time I'm going to line my machine, or my foot, up against the edge of the bag. So I'd say that's probably 1/4 inch. I'm going to go with a 4.5 for my stitch length. Back stitch a little. Okay. Take your time on those side panels, or not side panels, but side seams, especially if you're on a domestic. No matter what, just take your time. That's always a good motto to follow. Don't be in a hurry. Strap out of the way. All right, here we go. Trust yourself to stay on the same stitch line, double back stitch on your strap for a little extra stability. Whew. Make sure your straps are out here so they're not getting sewn onto your bag. Okay. It's getting a little crazy. Alright, do a little adjust in here. Whew. Okay. Sorry if you can't see for a second. There we go. Okay, these strings are in my way. Let me cut them off. Okay. Alright. When we get to this side again, you're going to make sure it's all nice and flat. Again, just take your time. It's going to be a thick seam. I love this machine. It just sews right over it. It's amazing. It's like it's not even hard. I love it. Whew. All right. Make sure your strap's out. Here at the end. 1 second. All right, I had to move the camera a little bit. I figured I'd just stop it and restart it. That way it's not all shaky. So here's our bag. We just top stitched. Looking pretty good. Awesome. All right, I zipped it up just because. But let's go ahead and unzip it because we are not quite done yet. Now, we got our holes that we forgot to, or that not forgot, but we purposely left unsewn. So let's go ahead, pull our lining out. This is still gonna work even though we already top stitched the bag. All right, here's our hole. We're gonna go ahead and reach in through that hole and grab our zipper. Wrong way. Reach in through our zipper. All right, the lining is outside of the bag. I've gone crazy. Reach in, just your zipper pocket only, pull it out, okay? Awesome. We got our zipper. Reach in that hole now and grab our hole that we left open in the bottom of the lining. We grab both edges of that and we want to pull it through. This might be a little bit difficult. You just want to get it through enough. It doesn't matter what the zipper pocket looks like, you can squish it down. You just want to get it through enough where you can finish sewing that edge that you left unsewn. And really this is enough. It looks like a big wad of material, but you can already see where you started and where you stopped sewing. I'm sorry, where you stopped. So we're going to clip the rest of that edge where we haven't sewn. We're going to clip that all the way across. It's going to seem odd because it's not nice and flat in front of you, but I promise it'll work. It's kind of hard to get it crooked because you can see where it's already sewn together and you're just going to finish that stitch line basically. Alright, so whoop, I always turn this the wrong way. Alright, turn you back down here and we will go ahead and sew that shut. Make sure your straps are out of the way. I'm going to start a little bit on top of where I've already stitched. That way it's more of a continuous line. Turn my stitch length back down so I'm not top stitching anymore. That'll work. Back stitch. Alright. Just kind of move it around a little so you get it nice and flat. Do a little at a time. Okay. Go all the way to the other end and overlap a little bit where you've already stitched. Okay. There's not really nothing to show now because you can't really tell, but right here is where we originally stitched and stopped, and I just finished. If you want, you can trim some of this off. I'm not going to. Maybe it's just because I'm lazy, or maybe it's just because, I don't know. It's probably just because I'm lazy. But just pull your lining back out so it's out again. Kind of move it out of the way, and we're just going to sew our zipper pocket shut now. Kind of fold the edges under. Clip it. That's why we pressed the edges, remember when we did that? So it has a nice pressed edge. Okay. Almost one more clip. Okay, this is our zipper. We're going to go ahead and sew it shut. Get rid of all these. And that is the very last thing that we need to sew. I'm not going to do it now, but if you want, you can go ahead and get a lighter and just kind of, singe the pieces that are left from clipping your thread. I am just pushing the lining and the zipper pocket back in. So the lining you can push back in the bag the way it goes. I'll move you up so you can see. Just put the lining back in the bag. Okay. I'll put the bag up here and then push my lining in. Not my lining, my zipper pocket that we just sewed shut. Get the corners in there good. Okay. Zip it shut. We got this big, huge slip pocket. Phew. And now you can't see where the hole was that we left open in the bottom of the lining because we sewed it shut the way we were supposed to begin with, so it's hidden. And then you can't see where we sewed the zipper pocket shut because it's in the zipper pocket. So that's a nice clean finish. So you have a big slip pocket, zipper pocket, exterior panel. This bag is done. Hopefully my little tutorial was not too hard to follow and easy to understand. I'm gonna review it and edit if I have to, and if it looked like crap, well then it'll be all in like a time-lapse type video and you won't even know I was talking. But if it turned out good, well then I guess you'll get to hear all this. Alright, so thanks for watching and enjoy. Bye-bye!